So that's me, Chief Executive. So I'm talking about being user-led, but particularly how that applies to the work of Spectrum. So great. Before I start, I should say that when I say that we support disabled people to live independently and act as a voice piece for them, by disabled people, we include people with any impairments, so that's physical, sensory, intellectual, physiological, emotional age related, or indeed hidden impairments. That includes people with long-term health conditions, people learning difficulties, mental health, cancer survivors, and those living with HIV and AIDS. And I should say, I mean, it rather depends which statistic you look like, but it's at least 15% of the UK disabled people are disabled people, and let alone if you start to include the families that are, linked to disabled people, and therefore there's a big section of the society that has a stake in getting issues around disability sorted out properly. So about us, we're a user-led organisation. That means we're run and controlled by disabled people. So I'll talk about a little bit about what that means later on. We're a community interest company, mainly because when we first emerged in 1984, we felt that disabled people should have rights and not exist on charity, and therefore it'd be inappropriate for us ourselves to be a charity. Now we're a community interest company which seems to say what it is on the can, which is good. We work to promote independent living and the proper inclusion of disabled people into the community. And our culture is really built around two principles. One is peer support. That's, rather than having experts and professionals and clients, we have peers. So we work amongst disabled people all the time, and almost all of us that work in the organisation are disabled people themselves. I'll talk more about that later on. And we've been going since 1984, and really we came into existence for two reasons. One is we wanted people to be able to learn from each other how to live independently, and we wanted to actually speak for ourselves. We were tired at that time, and even now, people seeking to speak on behalf of disabled people who weren't themselves disabled people. We wanted to speak for ourselves, and in the end, we developed our own organisation to make that happen in practice. Two important principles guide us. One is social moderate disability that Kate spoke about already. And I'll speak all day about both of these, and I won't. But the point I make with social moderate disability, that for those that don't know, is what it tries to make the point of, that we're not disabled by our individual impairments so much as the way society responds and doesn't respond to those impairments. The point being that society can change, rather than the only way I can change is by being cured, which, to be honest, I don't want to be cured. And in any case, you can't cure the impairments I've got. And what we try and do with disabled people is help them to understand that it's okay to be who they are. They don't have to spend their whole life either regretting being disabled or wishing they weren't disabled. It's actually okay to be who they are, and we help them to live independently, and that's our second principle. And independent living is about having choice and control over what you do. It's not about doing everything for yourself. I think that's more widely accepted today than it was when I first started working in this area. There are 12 aspects to independent living. I think commonly disabled people are seen as a social care issue, where it's actually 12 aspects to independent living. I think if you click through, it might remind me what some of those aspects are. Could I? There we are. So I just and pull up a few there, but so it includes things like access to the environment, having transport we can actually use, housing that we can actually get into, both myself and people that I want to go and visit. Those houses need to be accessible. having personal assistants, carers. In some people's language, we choose to use personal assistants as a way, and having an education employment system that enables us to work and be properly educated, and having information which is actually accessible to all disabled people. So some people that will be having larger print, for other people it may well be having text in particular colours, or even no colour in some cases. So those are our two important principles that guide everything that we do. The first one being particularly important for how we deliver services, and the second one being important for the services we actually do, and it's about individual choice and control, helping people to live a lifestyle that they want to live rather than somebody else wants to live them. I just want to talk a little bit about the power of being user-led and peer support, and it's useful that the two previous speakers have both spoken about these, which is really good. So Spectrum is run and controlled by disabled people, so we are run by, and as I said earlier, almost all of our staff are disabled people, so we're run by and controlled by the very people that we support. And all of our directors are disabled people. We call them directors rather than trustees. So you can't be a director if you're not a disabled person in our organisation. We don't claim to be experts. We simply support people from the experiences of our own and of other people. So, I've gone through life. I'm 59. I've gone through life with certain experiences, things that have worked and not worked. And sometimes those experiences can be very useful for other people that are trying to either overcome the same barriers in their lives or solve problems that are happening in their lives. And that's the way we work, what we choose to do. So we don't claim to be experts. Most of us are sick to death with so-called experts that turn out not to be very expert. And I should say we always present and use a positive image of disabled people. We don't portray disabled people as pitiful or agents of charity. We always present disabled people and a positive image of people doing that. And again, we're trying all the time to actually say it's okay to be disabled. There's nothing. You shouldn't feel that somehow that's something to be embarrassed or ashamed about. It's okay to be who we are, and many of us are more experienced with the notion. They're actually pretty proud to be disabled people. That's a positive label that we adopt. In our experience, people gain empowerment. You can't empower somebody. People gain empowerment and self-belief for themselves via peer support and via having positive role models, and combining that with our two basic principles, the social model and independent living, which is about choice and control. That's what helps people to become empowered and helps them to make a life of their choice, doing the things they want to do with their lives. And the trick that we all have, be it disabled or not, is finding ways of overcoming the things that we are weak at doing or find difficult to do. And I used to say, when I used to do training on independent living, it seemed to me that the more wealthy you are, the less you do for yourself, and nobody would claim that those people aren't independent. It's just that they've got the ways to have people do the things they really don't want to do. And disabled people are just the same. We just have a different set of things that we can or can't do. We find this approach, being user-led and working to peer support principles, far more attractive than maybe a traditional charity approach to, looking after people. But I'm happy to take any questions if there is time. Thank you very much.